Now, the last subject that I want to talk about on this video is the whole issue of rhythm and meter. These are things that I've been very interested in for a long time. When I first went to college in the early 60s, I started seeing a lot of unusual rhythms and meters that I had never experienced before, and it really intrigued me, and I wanted to, kind of figure out how to do it, how to play it. There were a lot of composers, contemporary 20th century composers, that were really into this kind of stuff, and they were the guys that were kind of at the forefront of bringing a wider variety of rhythmic and metric materials into contemporary music. And now it's beginning to filter down into, popular music styles in jazz and in rock and in Latin and so forth. And a lot of people think that this stuff, first of all, is very difficult to play, but it's really not. Let's talk about the rhythm side of things for a moment. In our whole system of music, we only have one kind of rhythm, even. There's no such thing as an odd rhythm. There are rhythms that have odd number of notes in them, like a triplet. It has 3 notes. That's an odd number, but we play those notes evenly. So all rhythms, whether it's a 2 or a 4 or a 3 or a 7 or a 5, we play them exactly the same way. We just try to space them out so they're even across the time. So I'm going to demonstrate this a little bit by setting up a basic pulse, and then I'm going to play 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 note rhythms against the pulse. So just listen to what this sounds like. Now, when you learn to play these basic rhythms, you're really playing all of the bigger rhythms that there are of the same type, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But for most people, the first thing you need to do is to get a little bit more familiar with these basic rhythms. And it's usually the 5 and the 7 that are going to be the least familiar to you, so you need to spend a little bit of extra time on them. And I'm going to show you a little improv routine that you can use to work on this. There are certain rhythms that you've probably played a lot, like 16th notes and 8th notes, so you feel pretty comfortable with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to improv some lines on the snare drum using these rhythms primarily, and then every now and then I'm going to try to slip in some 5s. I may do 1 beat of 5s or 2 beat of 5s. I'll try to change it so that I get used to starting this new rhythm with either hand, or starting it on any beat, or ending it on any beat. So just listen to what this sounds like. Now, as you do this kind of routine, probably what's going to happen is as you get more familiar with the rhythms, you're just going to start taking it into the drum set a little bit. When you first do this, I would stick pretty much with single strokes to just kind of make it easy for yourself, one less thing to think about. But let's do the same kind of thing now, and I'm just going to start moving around the drums a little bit to see how these different rhythms, especially this 5, is going to sound. Now, once you begin to get familiar with this rhythm and you realize, hey, it's just another rhythm, it's got this number of notes in it, and I can move it around the drums in these various ways, then probably what you're going to do is to start experimenting around with your various sticking and linear options for playing these types of figures, because I'm going to have 5-note stickings that I could use to play that 5, and I'm going to have 5-note linear patterns that I can use to play that 5 with, and they'll simply give me more choices on the drums as to how to move around. Now, when this material is presented in the Rhythm and Meter Patterns book, there's a lot of exercises and a lot of studies that deal with these rhythms over one beat, because they're really the basis. This is the stuff that you need to get first. So you want to spend a lot of time on that material, because everything is going to come from that. And I'll show you what I mean by that. When you play a 5 over 1 beat, you're really playing all of the 5s that there are, all of the things, the larger 5s that a lot of people refer to as polyrhythms. They're not really polyrhythms, they're just big rhythms, but they're all in this 5 over 1 beat. And I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to set up the 5 on the snare drum, and then I'm going to take my left hand and pull it out and play it on my leg, so that all you're going to hear is the right hand part. And notice what the rhythm is in the right hand. That rhythm that I'm getting in the right hand is really a 5 over 2 beats, but it's actually just the 5 over 1 beat with some of the notes left out. So it's already in that basic rhythm. And if I wanted to get, let's say, a 5 over 3 beats, then what I would do is to play the 5 over 1 and leave out 2 notes, and that would sound like this. So this is why the rhythms over 1 beat are so important, because they really contain all the other rhythms. And this makes it very easy to understand how this stuff works. I mean, you already kind of know it. You know that if you take an 8th note, you can break it down into 2 16th notes. So it's the same kind of principle that we're working on here with these rhythms. When I play them this way, I'm playing them relatively slow so that I can actually hear the rate. But when you get into other meter situations where you're using these kinds of rhythms, some interesting things are going to happen. So I'm going to demonstrate now by doing the same kind of routine that I started with, of running 2 through 8 note rhythms. But rather than doing these rhythms over 1 beat, I'm going to do them all over 3 beats. So what I'll do is I'll set up a 3/4 vamp in my feet, and then I'll play 1 against 3, 2 against 3, 3 against 3, 4 against 3, 5 against 3, 6 against 3, 7 against 3, and 8 against 3. Now, when you start doing things like this, you can get into some of this kind of, multiple time playing that Vinny and some of the other guys do. And I'm going to demonstrate this by playing a little solo in 3/4. And then what I'm going to do is to take different of the rhythms that are inside that 3/4 and play as if I'm playing in the time of that rhythm. And you'll notice that I can really get some different feels to come out. So let's see what this would sound like. So you can really have a lot of fun if you get into some of these rhythmic and metric issues. And in the book, I tried to make it a point to cover all of the different things that I had ever seen anybody do with musical time. So if you really go through it and study the materials that are in there, you're going to find an awful lot of new things to use in your playing. You know, we're all basically dealing with the same material. And I think what I try to do is to help people to understand how things work and how you can develop them in your own ways, because we can always use more great players. We don't really need any more clones, but every time a new player comes up that has a distinct sound and a distinct voice, those are the guys that seem to be the most successful. And this material is really designed to help you to do that.